her mother doing some household chores, and she was gazing at her constantly for some time, and then she asked, "Mother, I'm curious to know why there are a few white hairs on your head." Mother was a little delicate to answer this, but she was very diplomatically answering the child, saying, "You know what? Every time you do something wrong, God turns one of my hair into white or gray, and that is why I have them." This child was smart. She thought for a moment, and then she replies to the mother saying, "Well, I now understand why grandmother has a lot of gray hairs." As children of God, while we are in this grace period, the Lenten season that's given to us as a blessing to introspect our lives, to reflect and to contemplate our faith journey, to make efforts to walk closer with God, to love Lord more deeper, to understand His purpose in our lives more clearly. And all of the Lenten meditations and the texts enable us to do this exercise and to make this Lenten season more meaningful and a blessed one. We are meditating on the characters around the cross. The last Friday we had Thomas the Apostle. And study 2 this evening, we will be reflecting upon Caiaphas the high priest. The historians help us to understand that this particular person, his name is Joseph. That's what the historians say. Caiaphas is a family name, and Joseph is his actual name. What we also understand is the meaning of this name is a diligent seeker. But as we meditate this evening, we will understand how diligently he sought the truth, contradicting to his name, the meaning which says, a diligent seeker. History also tells us that he belonged to the household of Annas, the chief high priest. And we also understand through the recordings that Annas' 5 sons were high priests. Grandson also was a high priest. Son-in-law Caiaphas, which is Joseph, is also a high priest. And so we also understand, as some of the historians record, saying how the sin of nepotism was prevalent in the lives of this high priest, this family, the sin of nepotism. If we see in the gospel narratives, this particular person, Caiaphas, who's known as Joseph in the historical recordings, he appears in 3 episodes. One is after the raising of Lazarus from the dead, at the trial of Jesus, and then in the Acts of the Apostles, the trial of Peter and John. These are the incidences where we see Caiaphas the high priest. And what we understand is that he plays a very key role, a very important role in the trial of Jesus, both behind the scene as well as being in the center of the stage. He plays a very predominant, very key role in the trial of Jesus. The incident in the Gospel of John, chapter 11 and 12, where we see Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. Following that, there is a high excitement in the air among the people. But that proved dangerous to the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the high priests. They looked at this excitement among the people as a very dangerous scenario, and hence, very quickly, the council of high priests was called, summoned, only to diffuse the situation and to suppress the excitement among the people. Why? Because they thought any such excitement, if left undealt with, would seriously prove dangerous to their popularity. And hence, they all gather and try to diffuse the very situation and suppress the excitement that was among the people. They thought that if this was allowed, the Roman rulers would be angry, and hence they would lose their temple, and also the nation would be destroyed. This is what they thought, but their thinking was not as a consequence, was not as a result of their patriotic spirit or affinity to the religion. The texts enable us to understand it was because of their personal vested interest that this high priest and all the other high priests thought in that line, to diffuse the enthusiasm among the people. If you read in Gospel of John and also in Matthew, very particularly in John chapter 11 and 12, where the Pharisees and the Jews and the high priests, they say after Jesus performed the miracles, their cry was, he is performing miracles, people have become to believe him, many have begun to believe him, and the entire nation is going after him. And this was their fear. It was not that the Roman rulers would destroy their temple and the nation would be destroyed, but their fear was that people were going after him. People have started believing in him. That was their actual fear. It was the vested interest. They saw this excitement among the people as going against their own prerogatives. They saw Jesus as a very threat to their position. And hence, the high priests, all of them gather, and there's a discussion that's going on there. And the high priests, the council of the high priests are yet to take a decision. They are dilly-dallying, some of them, not wanting to come out very vocally as to what should be decided. Caiaphas, the high priest, he is impatient. His anger, his temperament is seen in these passages of Gospel of John and Gospel of Matthew. He sees the vacillation of these high priests. They are not able to take a decision as to what to do with this person who's performing this many miracles, and the entire nation is going after him. People have begun to believe in him. What should we do? What should be done with this person? They are still indecisive, but Caiaphas comes, strikes at the right moment. He knew what exactly needs to be done. So he says, Gospel of John chapter 11, he points to the high priest and he says, you do not know anything. You know nothing at all. You're still not being able to decide as to what needs to be done with this person. You know nothing at all. There is only one point of view that we need to look into. And some of the versions very clearly says it. It is expedient. That is the angle that we need to look into. It is better for this one man to die than the entire nation be destroyed. The decision, the action is very clear, and you people are not being able to see that clearly and understand. There's only one point of view, and that is, it is expedient. It is better that this man die. Very quickly, Caiaphas makes a decision, and he was very influential, a strong man, and hence he could press his opinion to others, and others follow suit, because it says from that day on, they began to make plans to kill Jesus. From that day on, they start making plans to destroy this person, to kill Jesus. You know, I don't know how many of us are aware of this reality show that comes in the televisions, The Big Boss. I don't know, it comes in many languages. You know, there's an activity the contestants are asked to perform. That is a nomination process. You know, I see smile in some faces. And people should nominate one person who should be eliminated that particular week, and they should give reason why we nominate a particular person to be eliminated from the game. And I was surprised to hear them say, he or she is a very strong contestant, a very strong opponent, and hence I want to nominate him for elimination. Somebody who's strong, the world thinks, has to be eliminated. That's what we see here as well. Caiaphas, the high priest, and the other high priests along with him saw Jesus, and they were insecure. Jesus was a threat to their position, and hence they wanted to eliminate Jesus altogether. Remember, Caiaphas, the high priest, he was the head of the religion. He was a supreme judge. He ruled for almost 18 years as a high priest. Set by his very office, he was to take care and to see and help people to keep the flames of the messianic hope burning. That was his task as a religious head. And to offer sacrifices with purity in heart and hand. To keep his ears open even to hear the smallest of the whispers of God. And his heart should be filled with the justice and mercy. But what has happened here, we see the reverse character of Caiaphas. Caiaphas, the high priest, the religious head, was supposed to perform religious duties, a religious leader to guide people, a greater responsibility to help people, to care for people, to keep their hopes, the flames of hopes burning, waiting. But we see here, the texts tell us the contradiction in his character. He has become a total contradiction, a crafty schemer, unspiritual, ungodly, undisguisedly selfish is what one of the theologians says. Caiaphas, the high priest, was undisguisedly selfish, and hence he schemes. Someone also says he was rude like a boar, and he was cruel, a cutthroat person. The heights of his wickedness was seen in the way he guises his wicked thoughts in a plain speech. This man must die. That's the only way we can look at this. This man must die. Whatever be his miracles, the beauty of his character, his teachings, nothing mattered. All that mattered was that this man must die, because the truth that stands before Caiaphas was not inconsistent with the prerogatives of his and also his company, the council, and hence they wanted to eliminate him. This is also a danger which the contemporary church faces. Church as a faith community, there is this tendency and this temperament and this disposition that the church faces even this day, and it is perennial. It has been facing, and it's also facing even these days, where the sacred things, religion, and things related to religion, all of this is seen in a very personal vested interest to be fulfilled, somebody's individual agendas to be fulfilled, somebody's vested interest to be accomplished. It is a warning for those who have this temptation to see that the truth is their stock in trade. And hence they impose very instinctively, coming against all the progressiveness. They frown down every effort. They frown down the teachers of the truth because they feel the truth that is claimed or professed is not inconsistent with their prerogatives, with their plans, with their position. It was a threat to them, and hence fight against the truth, even if it is truth. Caiaphas, the high priest, the truth was standing right in front of him. He could not acknowledge, he could not recognize. All that mattered for him was his prerogatives, was his plans, was his position. He thought he is a danger, and hence he needs to be eliminated. The sentence that Caiaphas pronounced, it demonstrated an exclusive self-regard. One of the theologians beautifully says this: it is an exclusive self-regard. I regard myself with all importance, excluding others. I regard myself with the utmost importance, excluding others. Because the others pose a threat to me, my position, and those who belong to me. That's what Caiaphas sees here. Jesus was a threat to the council of the high priests, the Sadducees, who did not believe in the resurrection. Hence, he could not see the truth that was standing before him. And his pronouncement of the sentence, he must die, it demonstrates that he was utterly selfish. No regard for others whatsoever. A person who had to guard justice, who had to look upon others with mercy, fails in his responsibility. When the truth is standing before him, he was culpably blind. He was spiritually blind to acknowledge. You know, it is said that the fish that lives in caverns, they come to lose their sight after some days of living there. Living underneath, they lose their sight. In a similar way, people who live in this darkness of selfishness also lose their spiritual sight. They fail to acknowledge when the truth is standing right in front of them. However radiant the truth might be, yet they fail to acknowledge, they fail to understand, because they are culpably blind, spiritually blind. As one of the Bible teachers says, there is no one as blind as those who will not see, who feel an uneasy suspicion that if they deal with the truth, they have to change their track. Let me repeat that for us. There is no one as blind as those who will not see the truth, who have an uneasy suspicion that if they deal with the truth, they will have to change their track. Truth has that power, and hence we do not want to have anything to do with truth, because that is inconsistent with my prerogatives. It is inconsistent with my plans. It is a threat to my position. One of the missionaries to India, Jordan Maxwell, he came and asked one of the scholars to teach him the local language. This scholar looked at this missionary Maxwell and he said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I will not be able to teach you the language." Maxwell was surprised. He pleaded and he requested, "I have come here, I have tasks to do, but I need to know the language. Will you please teach me?" You know what the scholar replied? "Sir, I'm sorry. If I start to teach you the language, I will become a Christian in no time." That is the power of truth lived out. If we allow the truth to work in our lives, it brings greater transformation. But for those who are culpably blind, who will not see the truth, who do not want to have anything to do with the truth, sad is their descent. That's what we see in the life of Caiaphas, the high priest, who's supposed to be a higher ranking judge ruling the nation. He descends from a very high level. He becomes the assassin, accomplice of the murderers, as we call it, partner in crime. He did not want to acknowledge the truth because that posed a threat to him. It is not only culpably blind, but we also see the danger, this selfishness, the forms of selfishness, and the dangers that it poses to the church as a community. It's sad to see that people who have this kind of a disposition, they do not even understand that when they do wrong, they are doing something evil. They come to this state where they do not understand that they are doing something evil when they are doing something wrong. Their conscience becomes so insensitive. Caiaphas, the high priest, he doesn't want to acknowledge the truth, and hence he cannot even see the evil that he is doing and provoking others also into the same act. And finally, we also see, as I had mentioned, the nepotism that runs in the family, the sin of nepotism. According to the historical records, there cannot be any trial on the eve of Sabbath, and very particularly on the eve of a festival. But we see here nepotism flouts all laws and rules, and the trial takes place on the eve of Sabbath. And we also see that for a trial to be continued and verdict to be given, two witnesses have to agree. But in Jesus' trial, we see that the witnesses could not agree. There was no agreement among the two witnesses. But still, the trial proceeds and the verdict is given. We also see that the trial and the verdict cannot be given on the same day. Nepotism flouts the rules, acts according to its whims and fancies. It suits me and hence I can twist the rules. That is the conscience of nepotism. Twisting the conscience, twisting the rules to suit my own whims and fancies. If it is right, fair for me, I will go ahead and do it. I do not care, I do not have a regard for others. If it is just for me, fair for me, I do it the way I feel it is okay. That's what Caiaphas does here. Jesus' trial and the verdict was given on the same evening. Dearly beloved, even as we continue to ponder on this character, Caiaphas the high priest, there is certainly the Caiaphas and his sin is a possibility for every faith community, for every church, for every believer. The temptation is real, it is actual. We need to make conscious effort to fight against it. If we are not diligent, if we are not alert, if we are not vigilant to these forms of selfishness, it's only a matter of time. The descent, how far, how fast, how deep, how irrevocable that will be. The scripture tells us, Caiaphas, from a high ranking, he descends to the lowest, becoming partner in crime. Someone who should proclaim justice, who should deal fairly with people, who should practice mercy. We see the contradictory in the character. And this comes as a warning for the faith community, for the church, the contemporary church, where religion, things of religion, truth, the house of God, things that belong to God, where all of these, if they are treated in a manner that they are twisted to fulfill our interests, vested interests, it is a dangerous direction, and we need to be cautious about it. That is what this character, Caiaphas, exhorts us about this evening. As we continue to gaze upon the cross, the reason for the cross, the reason why Jesus had to mount the cross, it is because of my sin. It is because of my selfish desires. Let us ask God's help. Let us seek His grace and His mercies as we continue to make efforts to see that as we see the truth, allow the truth to bring about transformation in our lives. Let God change us and make us the way He wants us to become. God bless us all. Amen.